Good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. On a Monday morning, I'm Ayo Makinde. Well, one of the things that we always want to talk about and ensure that we do for ourselves as a nation is to ensure that this country is going in a particular direction, and that is in the direction of development. And I've asked many people when we host, what does development mean to us? So when the federal government, for instance, is talking about a national development plan, what does it mean? Maybe this report will give you an idea.
Two weeks ago, the Federal Executive Council approved the 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan to succeed the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, which is due to end by December 31st, 2021. 348 trillion naira is the proposed amount for the implementation of the plan, which the government envisages will meet the needs of Nigerians. The funding is expected to come from the public and private sector. While the government plans to invest 49 trillion naira, the private sector is expected to mobilize 298 trillion naira for the plan.
Regardless of whatever government comes into power after this present administration, the government will still be seeking to continue to strengthen the diversification of the Nigerian economy. And that's one of the major objectives of the plan. We sought to provide a strong foundation for a concentric, diversified economy. Why concentric, diversified? Because already the Nigerian economy is diversified. It's truly diversified. But we want to deepen that diversification. So any government that comes must be doing that, because that is what the electorate also will be asking for. And secondly, we have a major priority to continue to build out critical major infrastructure.
The plan is structured around 6 concepts, including economic growth and development, infrastructure, public administration, human capital development, social development, and regional development. The Minister of Works and Housing speaks on how the plan will impact the energy and transportation sectors.
At our last ministerial retreat, we were having conversations around our ministerial mandates. One of them is energy sufficiency and energy security. The other one is transport infrastructure. Of course, these two are linked. If the transport infrastructure is not sufficient or reliable, the energy and the petrol and petroleum product distribution network becomes vulnerable.
The plan remains an ambitious one, especially because it's coming when the nation is recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Our former Minister of National Planning speaks on how the government can generate the 348 trillion naira worth of investments it anticipates from the plan.
Through PPP participation of the private sector, injection of funds from governments, tax review, strengthening our tax regime. This, among others, are the areas I believe we can look into as a government to really execute the 2021-2025 development plan as encapsulated by the federal government.
Lofty ideas and plans, you may say, but what Nigerians will look forward to in the days ahead is how the plan will rebuild infrastructure, mobilize more investment, improve security, and positively impact on their livelihoods.
Well, I hope you have an idea now of what that means, what it means for us to have an economy that is diversified. Now, one of the things that stands out for me in all of that report is the 6-point agenda of that plan, which are recorded in what the components, the National Development Plan components are 6: economic growth and development, infrastructure, public administration, human capital development, social development, and regional development. I don't know in whatever order government is looking at those components that make up the National Development Plan. What will be important is not the books, is not the data, is not the theories, is how these ideas, these components, this plan impact directly on the livelihood, on the lives and livelihood of Nigerians. The president has said that the plan is to, over the next 10 years, pull 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Over the next 10 years. It's about a year or two into that plan now. How far we've gone, maybe we should begin to take some stock. Hopefully this plan will look in that direction to help us develop ourselves. But a critical component, which I didn't quite hear from that report, and I hope it is factored in, is that we have a humongous youth population. The average age of Nigerians from available data now is about 18. So the average Nigerian is said to be 18. In other words, we have a largely young population in this country. Has this plan factored them in? Has this plan taken on board the fact that it involves them, it includes them, and it is futuristic to them as well? That's a question we need to answer, and I hope we'll be able to carry them along as well. Good morning, Malcolm.
Good morning, Ayo. You know, when you said, what does development mean to people? I had to ask in my own mind as well, you know, what does development mean to me? I didn't quite get what development meant to you, though. But listening, I think I have an idea, because I know you're very big on human capital development. And I think that if we're able to focus, yes, a lot of things need to be developed, our infrastructure, but some people will say that that is the easiest one. It's expensive, it costs money, and usually it's tangible. So there is an incentive there for political office holders to want to invest, you know, a lot of their resources as the tangibles that their people can see, especially now that we're looking at 2023 ahead. But when we talk about true development, when we talk about, you know, the things that really impact the lives of the populace, infrastructure helps a great deal, but we know that services, investment in humans is actually the biggest investment you can ever make, from education to health. And oftentimes, these are intangibles. When you talk about health, for instance, it's not in the hospitals that you see. It's in the services that are provided in those hospitals. When you go there, are there doctors? Are there nurses? What is the level of care? Do they have disposable, you know, medical supplies, syringes, medicine, and all manner of things that will be needed in a hospital? How is the blood storage in that hospital? There are so many indices to look at. In education, when we talk about education, have we been able to, you know, let's say, streamline our curriculum or redevelop it in such a way that we're looking at our needs in future, that we cannot just be useful to ourselves, but also useful to the communities, to the countries around us, and even outside Africa? You know, these are the questions that I'm asking. Are we really putting our money where our mouth is with regards to the population that we have and also the future that we're looking at? And are we able to attract the private sector into these spheres? It is true that the private sector is already playing heavily in the education sector. But who's looking there to ensure that there is some coverage for even areas that are vulnerable, for people who will not be able to afford the services that the private sector is bringing on board? Do we have commensurate government services? And these are the questions that we're asking when it comes to national development plan. All you have to do is go to Lagos, and when you look at the people in traffic, for instance, you have to ask, how is government going to affect the lives of these people? I mean, how is government going to reach them? There are many questions. I know that it is not easy for the person who wears the crown, but hey, they asked to wear it, and that's why we should give them our problems. Let them solve them. Let them look after them and ensure that, you know, we are on track to the country that we truly desire. At least we all know that the basic minimum, security, is right under the purview of government. So the moment we're able to get that right, perhaps we'll be able to, you know, look at all the other indices and see how we're doing. Ayo.
Underlined a critical one, which is human capital development. And when you ask me, what does development mean to me? I believe that every development has to have a focus, and that's me. I mean, there are certain countries that are known for certain things. They are known for certain things. You think about medical tourism, you think about a particular country. You think about tourism on its own, you think about a particular country. You think about real estate, you think about certain countries. So when we think about Nigeria, what should be the idea, what should be the picture in the minds of the people? That, for me, is what will determine what we are, how focused we are. So everything that we do ought to be focused, in my opinion, ought to be focused in that, at least big in that direction. So you have 4 temperaments in your body, for instance. There's a primary temperament. Okay, so what's our primary? I think our development should go in that direction. If it's agriculture, let's be big on it. Let the whole world know that when you think about agriculture, in terms of research, in terms of production, in terms of education, in terms of everything, that's who we are, all across the country. But then, I guess we'll wait for the government to do what is needful. It's a 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan. I guess we wait and hope and work. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the papers this morning that we have for you. Let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper. And the Vanguard newspaper this morning is concerned about the 4th variant, well, the 4th wave of COVID-19 called Omicron, COVID-19's Omicron variant. Why travel ban won't work. Of course, for those who've been following, there's been travel ban in certain parts of the world already. Why travel ban won't work. WHO, NIDS, NMA, stories on page 5, say Nigeria doesn't need to follow Western world in making decision. Indonesian bans arrivals from Nigeria, 7 others as Omicron variant spreads. Morocco hails all incoming flights. Africa shouldn't be punished over new variants. Additional AFDB boss. Travel ban will affect global solidarity. That's according to the World Health Organization. All of that packed on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. And there's some people who will be wondering, okay, with the upcoming trip, upcoming state visit of the South African president, what's going to happen? Well, especially since the Omicron was said to have been discovered in South Africa. All of that packed on the front page, and the full story is on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. 97 top companies outpace economy's growth rate. Earnings rise by 13.6. That's what you have on the box on the front page. Subsidy removal. Reallocate savings to critical infrastructure. Business leaders tell FG. All of that you find on the front page. The story is on page 32 of the paper this morning. Let's see if we can take Mr. or Mrs. Mrs. is literally complaining. You made us a laughing stock at the party yesterday. And the Mr. says, that's why I don't attend foreign parties. The waiter asked if I'd like Mediterranean cuisine, and I said I'd prefer the one from River Niger. So what's my sin? That's the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Poor mister. Well, maybe it was a joke gone wrong. Maybe not taken properly. Let's look at this one from Daily Trust newspapers. I know I saw it just one moment ago, taking a look at Daily Trust, but if we can find. Okay, it's here. It says, Yuletide, hard times for air travelers as ticket prices double. Flights to South. Flights to South. I almost said South Africa. Don't blame me. The president is expected in town. Is it tomorrow or so? But it's flights to South. That's the southern part of Nigeria. Fully booked. So if you haven't booked your ticket for this season, if you're going down south, maybe you're in Abuja like I am, and you're going to Lagos where Ayo is, I'm sorry, you might just be on your own, because that's what Daily Trust is reporting this morning. It says airlines use festive period to recover losses. That's in parentheses there, so obviously someone is speaking. Booking racketeering booms. So maybe it's not just the tickets that have been fully booked. Maybe there's also some underhand play in there. We've no power to fix prices. That's from the NCAA. So they wash their hands of it. They don't know anything about why the prices are high. You might want to flip to page 4 just in case you're considering traveling. And look in this. 1 year after, residents remember 48 farmers killed at Zabamari. I think that will be in Borno State, but you might want to see the details on page 6 of the paper. we should always try and remember those who have gone before us, especially when they left under, you know, in gruesome circumstances where it was seen that the state failed them. Look at this. Gunmen trapped after attacking Jos prison. They have screenshots of the Jos Custodial Center after the attack, and they're reporting that gunmen have been trapped after attacking Jos prison. Looks like they have been surrounded by security forces. Let's see what eventually becomes of that story, which seems to be developing. A number of other stories which I'll leave you to do yourself, but let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Leadership newspaper leads with this one, and something of concern, especially in the build-up to 2023 elections. That's what you have on the front page. Concern over vacuum in INEC as 5 national commissioners retire next week. Stories on page 4. President yet to make nominations. Southeast, South-South, Northeast, North-Central, Southwest may be unrepresented. And what's INEC response? No cause for alarm. Find the story on page 4 of the paper today. In the same vein, right under the picture, electoral bill. PMB will consider public interest before assenting. Story is on the front page, continues on the inside pages. FG laments high malaria mortality rate. We're not hearing this for the first time. Of course, the picture of the Minister of Health is right there with the story on the inside pages of the paper this morning. High malaria mortality rate has been with us for a long time. Question is, what have we been doing? What are we doing about it? Especially since we've been talking about malaria eradication program since before independence. All of that you have on the front page of the paper. Right under the nameplate, NDIC pays 113 billion naira to deposit of failed banks. Story continues on page 7. That's the leadership this morning.
And if you look at The Guardian this morning, they have this one for you. Omicron, return of travel bans, dampen oil future, air travel. Just in case you're wondering what Omicron is, it's a new COVID variant, which is said to have developed here in Africa or mutated here in Africa, precisely in South Africa. I mean, I hate to say it, but hey, that's the reality. And it will seem that right now they say it's more dangerous than the Delta variant, which we saw earlier. I don't know. There's so many things about this particular variant, and what we've seen is that a number of countries are shutting their borders to foreigners. They don't want you to follow the protocol. They don't care if you're immunized. They're just shutting down their borders against foreigners. So this is what we're saying. Return of travel bans, dampen oil future, air travel. This will be the consequences of that sort of decision to shut down their borders. Oil dips for 5 consecutive weeks over fresh COVID-19 concerns. Uncertainty over OPEC Plus approach to January output. About 400 UK, US, December South African flights affected. Air peace, SAA await federal government's decision. Indonesia bans arrivals from Nigeria, 7 other African countries. WHO decries imposition of travel bans on African countries, urges governments to follow science, international health regulations. Well, it's on page 2 of the paper. It's going to be a very tricky one, because if you have Africans who have dual citizenship, and we know this is a Yuletide, where people would like to come home to their families. They haven't seen them since 2020, 2021. You're now saying they can't come home because there's travel restrictions or travel ban, as it will seem. And they're citizens of this country as well. They're also citizens of your country. What's going to happen? Well, let's see what eventually happens. But look at this. Don't overburden us, Nigerians warn federal government on fuel subsidy. That's also on the front page as well. And in case you're wondering why there's a picture of rubbish on the front page of The Guardian, you see that huge waste dump at police signboard bus stop along Airport Road, Lugbe. Okay, it's not Lagos, it's Lugbe in Abuja here. So I guess this is to call the attention of the authorities that this is what is along our airport road, and that when people come into the city, looking at our beautiful airport road, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Expressway, as it's been named, this is what they're going to see at the Lugbe side of things. So let us hope that the authorities concerned will take a look at the front page of The Guardian this morning and see how they can handle it. Let's leave it there for The Guardian newspapers.
You know, it just bothers me sometimes why we know what is right to do. It's right there in our faces. We see it every day. Why do we have to wait until it gets this bad? That's quite a huge hill of dump. Anyway, still talking about Abuja, let's look at the Abuja Inquirer this morning. Mandate secretaries, others. Controversy trails appointments. Group alleges lopsidedness, wants reversal. All interests covered, FCTA insists. Find the details on the front page, continues on the inside pages. Omicron COVID-19 variant. Indonesia bans Nigeria. Others, additional kicks. That's what you have right there on the front page of the paper. Above the nameplate, FG collects telecoms tax in advance to fund salaries. It is ascribed to the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Ibrahim Pantami. Find the details on the front page of the paper this morning. That's the Abuja Inquirer.
And if you look at this one, New Telegraph has this. Center for Social Justice proposed 5,000 naira palliative for 40 million Nigerians fraudulent. That's what they say. Says subsidy always front burner each time government resources are lean. Doling out 2.4 trillion naira to cushion effect of removing 1.8 trillion naira fuel subsidy. Absurd. Fuel subsidy removal will impose hardship on Nigerians. That from the PDP and others. Details on pages 2 and 31. And look at this. Banks personnel cost up 4.57% to 342.96 billion naira. Well, if we're to look at it compared to their profits, what will we find? I think page 3, maybe you might have that information. Minister advocates castration for incest, rape perpetrators. It's on page 2 of the paper. I heard her once. I don't know if that's the same minister we are speaking to. Speaking about the Minister for Women Affairs, because this is a period of 16 days of activism when we bring matters of sexual and gender-based violence to the fore. And the Minister for Women Affairs is speaking very prominently on it. So who knows? Perhaps she's the one. Maybe she's not the one. Maybe it's a male counterpart of hers. You don't want to guess. Pick up a copy of New Telegraph and see what the story is about. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Nigerian Tribune leads with this one. It's on VAT, value-added tax. That's it. Lagos, Oyo, Rivers, FCT subsidize 33 states. Uh-oh. And look at the riders. Oyo's VAT revenue higher than total collection of 17 northern states. That story is on page 13. North Central generates least revenue. Well, I guess the conversations around VAT is not over yet. And beside the picture right under the major headline, how bandits influx, CCTV absence, likely fueling insecurity, high crime rate in Abuja. That story is on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Something that needs to be dug a little deeper into. So pick up a copy, especially if you're in or around Abuja and you know what you might be able to do as well to protect yourself. That and several others on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune brings us to the end of the papers this morning. We're back after this break for the issues for the day. Please stay with us.
Parliament resumes plenary for the week and delves straight into what is perhaps the most talked about issue since this 9th Assembly: security.
In Imo State, particularly,
Senator Rochas Okorocha draws the attention of the Senate to what he describes as worsening security situation in Imo State. He adds that this level of killings has not been recorded in the history of the state.
there's no day that passes in the state without one ugly story of kidnapping, killing, maiming, burning of innocent homes, shops on daily basis. Mr. Senate President, few weeks ago, it was the killing of traditional rulers. The other day, it was killing of a policeman, and few days ago, it was killing of an army man.
This Senate, and indeed the entire National Assembly, has been very consistent in trying to find some kind of solution, more permanent solution to ending the security situation in the country. And of course, we'll continue to do so, and agree that we need to diversify our means of getting the solution to the numerous myriads of security challenges across the country.
I so second.
In the House of Representatives, an urgent motion on the need to look into cases of unresolved kidnap is considered, using the Southeast as reference.
The House notes that there have been a lot of cases of missing persons in the Southeast and in Anambra State in particular. The House further notes that among other crimes recorded during the said period was the kidnap of one Mr. Obiora Abasimelo, the candidate of Labour Party for the just concluded Anambra governorship election. He was kidnapped on the 18th of September 2021 in Anambra State.
The House resolves to urge the security agencies to quickly get to the root of the unresolved cases across the country and mandate its relevant committees to work with the security agencies and report back in 6 weeks. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Yes, we did, when we're talking about Human Development Index or development plans just earlier on in our conversation, we said security, without security, almost all the indices in a development plan will be almost impossible to achieve. So we're asking this morning, where are we with regards to handling our security? 1 minute, it looks like things are a bit calm. The next minute, it looks like there's fire on the mountain. Right now, where precisely are we? What you heard there was an earlier report by members of the National Assembly, talking about the security situation in their different constituencies and bringing it to the fore of the leadership, at least within their own purview. So what more? I mean, apart from the president meeting also with service chiefs and mandating them to crush the bandits, we also saw just last week, before the week ended, that the federal government approached the courts for 2 bandit organizations to be designated terrorists. What is the implication of that as well? So those are some of the matters we're sinking our teeth into this morning. And joining us to do that is Mr. Felix Ogbaudu, who is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning. Well, this is the Yuletide approaching already, and I'm sure a lot of people are gearing up to travel, or perhaps not. All of it will be heavily dependent, of course, on finances, and secondly, security. For a number of people, they're very concerned about that. Moving from one part of the country to another, you always have to do some due diligence now before you do. If you were to, based on what you have seen so far, based on movement from security authorities and some of the recent happenings within our security sphere. If you were to give an advisory, would you say it's okay to travel?
Well, if it is absolutely necessary to travel, where people can travel. But if it's not necessary, if it's not mandatory, it's not compulsory, you don't need to, if you have the insecurity situation in the country. But that's not to say that we've not had some measures of improvement in combating security in the country. Yes. Because the situation presently is not as bad as it was some time back. But like I always said, the truth of the matter is that we have failed woefully to prioritize security. Like Riley observed the opening remarks, in the absence of security, where insecurity thrives, no form of human endeavor takes place. Absolutely none. Take some states ravaged in the northeast by Boko Haram. What's going on there? Maybe just now the situation has reduced drastically. Schools have resumed, commercial activities are coming up, people begin to move around, socializing. You recall some years back, the band were even attacking Muslims in the mosques. When they started, it was attacks on Christians in the churches, later Muslims in the mosque. So the situation in Nigeria, security situation in Nigeria is, to a very large extent, very worrisome. Just last week here, Mr. President gave marching orders to the security chiefs.
It's not the first time he's given
No, I mean, that is, to some, it sounds like rhetorics. We're so used to it, it's not the first time. And you see, giving marching orders is one thing. Empowering people to comply with that marching order is another thing. It's a different ballgame. Are you expected to go and fight, combat this guy with their bare arms? It's not possible. And we're in a situation whereby even the security agents who are supposed to protect you and I are killed, they're kidnapped.
Indeed. Just
2 days ago, a DP in Edo State was kidnapped in Esako Central. We've had some months back, some soldiers somewhere along the express from Onitsha, if you're going to Wiri, were attacked and killed. Soldiers. So you can imagine the audacity, the boldness, the disregard for those. But you see, one of our biggest problems in this country, like I've always said again, is the absence of deterrence. Where there is no deterrence, impunity is fueled. I was just listening to newspaper reviewers. I sat there in the waiting room. And some people are, what are they asking for? For those that, you know, sexual assault on women, children, and all of that. They are advocating, campaigning for castration of the men. If the man, that suspect is castrated, of course, when it comes to it, we can never ever do it again. But we're in a country where you get something done and nothing happens to you, and because nothing happened to A, B, C, D are encouraged to go ahead and do it, and with the impression and the belief that they too can get away with nothing happen to them. So we must have very serious, severe punishments that will deter people from continue to get involved in crimes. And you also recall some of the statements, utterances that some of our political leaders make don't help matters. Recall some years back, regrettably, a party chairman once said, if you defect from party A to party B, our own party, all your sins are forgiven. What is the meaning of that? Why would we put the that kind of level? Instead of insisting that if you commit an offense, you must be punished for it. Well, I say, once you come to us, your sins are forgiven. That's an unguarded statement.
Some people will say that it's one thing to say, it's another thing for, for you to actually be doing it and not saying anything about it. But that's on the one hand. In your first statement, you say that that's not to say that the security situation isn't improving. So I wanted to ask you, what indices would you say we should look at to know if our security situation is improving or if it's not improving?
You see, in terms of improvement, people should be able to move around freely without fear of being killed or kidnapped That's one. Two, conduct their businesses because that's what sustains them. Three, our children should go to school. No form of harassment. When I want to socialize, we should also do that. Want to worship God, our Creator, go ahead. Go to the churches, go to the mosques. Safe. And in your house, sleep with your 2 eyes closed and enjoy your sleep. You recall not too long ago, we had an election on Anambra State. The Inspector General of Police deployed over 350,000 policemen.
No, we were told 34,000.
Okay, let's say 34,000. Sorry, not 350. I meant to say 35,000.
Yeah,
sorry about that. 34,000 policemen. And what was the reason? The threats they foresaw could disrupt that election. The question is, if we can deploy that number of police officers, 34,000 plus almost 35,000 to a number for just an election, why can't we deploy the same number to the areas that are prone with this, that are having these security challenges? Look at Sambisa Forest. We are told it's very large. Yes, it's large. But if you deploy that number, this number of XYZ from police, from the military, from civil defense and all of that, moving into the place, well equipped, armed, with armored vehicles and all of that, tankers, tanks, they will overrun all of these guys. But nothing like that.
Do our police have that sort of training? Some people will say that is that not for military, is that not a military operation, more or less?
We have had joint military operations over time. The challenges we are facing in this country, not even one security agency can single-handedly combat them. That is gospel truth. We need to synergize. And they've been doing that since. They've been doing that. A lot of things have come up. Even the vigilantes, they have just security agencies to combat some of the situations. You know, so they must come together. And what I always advise is, these guys that are going in there, a good number of them sacrificed their lives and the past and all of that. If they were protected, for instance, if I'm in an armored vehicle, armored tank and all of that, no bullet can hit me. But if I'm going to attack, I will hit them. But again, someone on the other side, some of these guys are going to confront. Some of the equipment you have, they also have them. But the painful aspect is that, how did they smuggle them into this country? Who obliged them those things? But that notwithstanding, we can still confront them.
You are a police officer.
Yes,
you were a police officer,
yes.
a senior police officer.
I retired after 35 years.
So you tell us, I mean, how do you think that these bandits, these terrorists have become so well equipped?
Yes.
How do you think that happened?
A lot of people have talked about porosity of our borders.
Indeed.
Yes. A lot of things come into this country undetected. So that's one thing. We must intensify securing our borders.
When we talk about security, we've been told that the borders are so expansive, it doesn't make any sense to try and build a wall or even sending personnel there. You know, we've been told that it's almost impossible to man the borders. From your experience, is it something that you agree with?
We can man our own borders. We must learn to get our priorities right. Who's going to do it for us? If we cannot afford to build walls like we find in other countries, at least we can deploy men. For instance, take armed robberies, kidnappings on the highways, Abuja to Kaduna. If we had patrol vehicles by the security agencies 24/7 on that road, blaring their sirens, not just mountain, I'm not talking about mountain road blocks where they'll be extorting money and all of that, but just going up and people will be deterred to come out. But when they come out, you don't see security agencies that operate. Some of them, when they even come out, I even see security agencies, they attack them, take their arms to go and commit these crimes. So we really need to sit up. You see, they have the training. What does it take to train them? See, that's why one of that thing I want to bring here might not be directly related to what we're talking about. have toyed with this idea of putting up a proposal at the Ministry of Education to incorporate in our school curriculum at every level, from the nursery, primary, up to university level, on our most cherished moral values, our do's and don'ts. You know, like somebody, there's an advert I was enjoying in NTA. I suppose much in NTA, but it's not too complete. They say if you see something, say something. I've also added when you also hear something. It's not just when you see. So what we are going to build to the school curriculum I'm talking about, the do's and the don'ts, are moral values.
Is it only for, is it not, pardon me, but some people will say, isn't that for those that are going to school? Because when you look at the, I mean,
there are so many ways beyond, I'm coming to that level. For those that are going to school, yes. They are not going to school. We have town criers all over the place. In some community where I come from, if you want to inform the community about something, it's somebody with a megaphone that goes around the town informing them. In our neighboring Francophone countries, if a stranger gets into any community, within 5-6 minutes, the head, the village head will be informed. And they go and pick him up. Say, my friend, who are you? What are you doing here? That is sensitizing the people within the environment. But here, we're so nonchalant. Oh, it doesn't concern me. Is it only when it affects you that it concerns you? No. That's why people always said security is a collective responsibility. A lot of people know those that are having firearms in their homes and all of that, but nobody can say anything. If you are scared that if you disclose this information to security operatives, they might come after you, you can pass the information anonymously. There are many ways.
Have the security operatives made that avenue? Have they made that room for people to be able to pass information to them anonymously?
Of course, there. We have a lot of police lines. The one they caption emergency. Emergency does not necessarily mean when the house is on fire or some armed robbers are attacking your house. No. You just call them, hide your number, tell them, and they work on it. That's what we're talking about, intelligence.
Mm.
So we shouldn't, this attitude of sitting on the fence is not helping matters. Just complain and complain. What are we doing to support the security architecture of this country?
From what you have seen, would you say that right now our police is better structured to be, because some people, we've talked about police reforms, we've talked about, there are those who feel very strongly that we haven't done right by the police and we cannot be making demands where we have not really invested. From what you now know of the police, and I do not know what you currently know, but would you say that the police is in a better position to be able to tackle the myriad of security challenges that confront us in many ways?
The answer is definite and capital no. Just 2 weeks back, I read one of the papers. The IG was bemoaning a situation whereby the police is grossly underfunded. It's not only the police alone, the military. And like I've always said, there are certain agencies in this country that are overfunded for doing next to nothing.
For instance?
I don't want to mention. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well,
so, listen,
let me say they don't have enough funds.
Let me tell you, if, for instance, the Inspector Police or Chief of Minister gets to his office and there is no lights, they go to finish it to buy petrol, there's no petrol. Use the vehicle. You can't communicate. Okay, let's close for the day. You deploy Portugal and sort that problem. Will I accept that? But somebody's in there. Oh, what was he doing? Sitting down in an air-conditioned environment, making laws. If there's no light, no this or that, you just adjourn sine die indefinitely until everything is fixed. Yet security, response for security is 24/7. Every day. Public holidays inclusive, weekends inclusive. And those guys I'm talking about, they go on the recess. 2 months, 2.5 months, and all of that. And they get all their salaries paid in millions. I'm told one senator gets close to 9 million. I don't know how true it is. The House of Representatives gets less than that, but it's also in millions. So we really need to prioritize security in terms of empowering them, the military and the police, or security agencies. But again, like in the good number, maybe the military. In the military, they don't joke with training. But in the police, I'm sorry to say, they have not been able to prioritize training. They need to train their men, their personnel. And my dear, if you go to most of the police training institutions, you will shed tears. Just like most of the police barracks. Pigs cannot even live in those places. Those are police barracks. You go to police training institutions, the facilities are not there. The number of cadets or recruits, officers who are going training there, far outweigh the facilities that are available. Even facilities that are available, they are outdated.
So, on the one hand, I mean, if we have more and more people wanting to join the police, it will mean that there is a desire for people to join the Nigeria police.
Yes, of course.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So the question is, what exactly is preventing us from being able to rouse, would I say, to mobilize those numbers in such a way that we're able to tackle the security challenges that are confronting us?
Back to the first point I made, we must get our priorities right. You don't invest minimally and expect to reap optimally. Put it so little and get so much out. No. That's the issue. So we must make sure, let somebody set up a committee from, made up of people from all over, all interest groups. Go and ask them, what are the challenges here? If, for instance, the press goes to visit the police institutions, when you go to say, what are the challenges here? You see them on ground. Accommodation grossly inadequate. The lecture halls grossly inadequate.
Well, we did that once with the police reports, and
yes.
they were not very well received, were they?
Are you surprised? Is that the only one? A lot of reports are submitted, and what they end up somewhere, just thrown somewhere. Again, the political will to do the needful.
But some people will say that these security chiefs, they have the president's ears. I mean, he summons them from time to time to find out for, the security situation. Can they whisper into his ears the challenges confronting them and seeing how he can, use presidential powers to at least try and solve some of the problems they're facing?
It's not an issue of whispering to his ears. It's an issue of documenting what the challenges are and hand them over to him. You're not going to whispering. And you can't convince my president don't know. He's a retired general from the army. He knows. And he has essay that, essay this, essay that. And you have a Minister of Police Affairs. You have a Police Service Commission. All of these agencies, in every state you have a Commissioner of Police. You have states under zonal AIGs. I was AIG in 2 zones. Zone 6 in Calabar, overseeing rivers, as at that time, rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, and Ebonyi. I retired from Zone 7 near Abuja, overseeing FCT Command, Niger State and Kaduna State. You have enough officers, competent hands on ground to tell whoever needs to be told what the challenges are and how to address them adequately. That's the issue. But I would have, it's just that we're running out of time. I would have also talked about the cultures that are plaguing us in Nigeria as a nation that have brought us where we are.
We'll come and talk.
One of them, before you come in, the issue of justifying the unjustifiable and defending the indefensible. Square pegs in round holes.
We'll come to that in a moment. Let me quickly go to Lagos now, where I know that Ayo has another guest waiting. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Maokwe. Incidentally, the guest is a little closer to you, although he's joining us virtually. Captain Ali Umar, former Army officer and CEO, Goldwater and Riversand. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us this morning. You've been listening, I'm sure, to Mr. Felix Ogbaudu, who's been talking about the challenges, especially of the police, and the challenge of collaboration that we've heard and we've been having with security agencies. By way of a brief opening, because we should be taking a break in a little while, what would you say, what's your take on some of the things that you've heard him say about the way we've been taking on this issue of insecurity?
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Maokwe, and good morning to the senior police officer. He has actually said it as aptly as it can be said. My take on what we are experiencing security-wise is in one sentence, so you can go on break. Nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. We're just recycling problems. We are recycling problems.
We are recycling problems. I don't know. Yes. What do you mean by that? Because there are those who would say the issues seem to have evolved from insurgency to banditry to all kinds of things over time.
Okay, let's look at it on a problem-solution scale. There is no shortage of solutions in our country. I particularly encourage you to replay clips you've had with myself in that studio, and you will hear what the senior police officer is repeating or is saying. So there's no shortage of solutions. Rather, what we do is we recycle problems. So what I mean by recycling problems is somewhere in there, there is a benefit in these problems for the same people whom we prefer the solutions to, and they don't heed them.
What I don't understand what you mean by that. Just if you can quickly clear that one.
Okay, simple. What exactly is it you want to talk about this morning that has not been addressed in the last 6 years? Banditry. When banditry was quite at its infant stages, the solutions were profiled. Were they heeded? No, they were not. What is it the police or the armed forces or any of the paramilitary or security agencies is requesting for that is new to the ears? Okay? What is it that is new to the ears that they are requesting for? So what I'm telling you is that it's not a shortage of solutions. The solutions are there, 2 for 10 kobo, and they can be very, very well purchased, acquired. But then the problem is, as I said, there seems to be a benefit factor where you see the same problems recurring. The same problems even get bolder. The same problems even tend to poke the authorities in the eyes. The same problems rubbish the magnanimity of the state. And my friend, we are recycling problems. So basically what we do probably is we are even complaining to the problem.
Oh dear. Well, Captain Umar, my apologies, as you already mentioned earlier. We'll delve right into all these because there are some that, as you said, may have been recurring. Why are we not taking them on? Let's look at those deeper when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Two gentlemen still with us this morning, Felix Ogbaudu, who is former Assistant Inspector General of Police in Abuja Studio, as well as Captain Ali Umar, who is a former Army officer and CEO, Goldwater and Riversand. Well, Captain Umar, so you were saying something about the fact that we're recycling problems, and I'm just wondering, a number of people might still be wondering what that means. Is that to say that we're just winking in the dark, we know what to do, we refuse to do it? And then you mentioned the other time that there's some form of costs, benefits I don't understand. If you can explain some of these things and help us chart a way forward. Otherwise, we will continue to jeopardize the lives of our fellow Nigerians.
Indeed, Martin, let me be a little bit more, transparent now, to borrow the word. What exactly can we begin to say when we see a threat form become bolder? We see them stop at nothing to rubbish the majesty and reckoning of our armed forces, of our state as in government, and still, when the call for them to actually be placed where they belong and be classified as terrorists is made, we get dilly-dallying from those at the helm of affairs who should actually spearhead this call. What do we make of a situation, for example, when names and specifics are mentioned, not home, abroad, by credible organizations? They are thrown at us free of charge. And we dilly-dally and keep hoping that time will sweep these names under the carpet. What do we make of circumstances where we have a road where even generals do not dare to tread? Rather, they will join me on the train from Kaduna to Abuja, and we sit face to face. And I feel glad that I have not lived to see this day. I probably will have committed suicide. What do you make of a situation where a country with the kind of army I was privileged to serve with now deploys women, some 300 women, to go and guard the roads? I was wondering whose wife will be on duty on such a task. When you start seeing these things, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. We are complaining to the problem, and that's why I say the problem recycles problems for us, because they make profits from it. But gladly, the joy of democracy,
profits. When you say something
every 4 years.
Just a second, Captain. When you say they make profits from them, who is making profits from what?
If it is not profitable, then why sustain it? I mean, let me stretch your minds a bit. If it's not profitable, why sustain it? Why sustain it? In fact, if I want to be mischievous, I dare say the bandits even feel insulted that they haven't earned the right to be terrorists. And I said that the last time I was in your studio. Are you sure they are not annoyed that despite everything they've done to wreak havoc on the face of this country, we are still thinking twice about calling them by their real names? Come on, let's wake up and smell the coffee. Why do we run circles around this thing? Haven't we heard where we were talking about is it the commercialization of violence? Or I don't know. There was a time very reputable sources from the military and the police, the security agencies, came out to tell you that violence has now been politicized. Violence is now an economy. And I'm telling you that we are recycling problems profitably. That's just what it is.
Okay.
There's no other way I can describe it.
Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know if this other angle to the conversation is still in line with what you're saying. Just yesterday we reported that as the number of surrendering members of terrorist groups continue to rise, the Borno State government is constructing more shelters to accommodate them. There's a community-based reconciliation effort driven by the federal and state governments, and it's now in its 4th month. But not much is known about the program. Some say it's all shrouded in some secrecy. The increasing number of surrendering members of terrorist groups. Is this something of concern to you that they are surrendering, or is something to cheer?
Honestly, I don't know what to make of it anymore, and I'll tell you why. Once upon a time, like 1,000 of them were assembled somewhere in Lokoja, for trials. I don't know. I don't know where those ones are now, and I cannot hazard a guess. About 1,000 or so of them, I recall, somewhere in Lokoja, were actually tried in court. We were told they were going to be, there were so many of these verbiages, which I don't even want to recall now, that were used to describe what was being done. What has become of them? Where are they? Can we profile 10 of them and bring them and say, look, this is what this child or this young man or this person has been exposed to, and this is where he is today, and this is what he has done? Can the National Orientation Agency take on this challenge, or is just the usual, you have spoken, we have heard you, next person? So if the Borno State governor is trying to do something too, or they have already started, these things become lullaby to the citizens. They become lullaby because these days when you talk about it, Nigerians just yawn and start to doze. You see, it's one thing to sit in there in government. As my senior police officer has said, you have everything working at the touch of a button. Probably there's enough light to make you comfortable to want to stay in office all day. And to be out there in the sun, in your boots, if you know what it means to put a steel helmet on your head under the sun, you understand what I'm saying? You don't understand. It's two different things. So a lot of these things they talk about are verbiages to a propensity of Nigerians, including the law enforcement agencies and the foot soldiers. The only reason you're not hearing from the foot soldiers is probably because they've been sworn to oath. But trust me, we are recycling problems, and it's unfortunate that the soldiers and the security agencies are just the pawns in this game. And when I say pawns, if you are a chess player, you know what a pawn is. A pawn is expendable.
Particular one, and then we talk about intelligence and hopefully take that also to Mr. Weldu. In that same report, when you talk about profitability, we'll not be able to take the report though, but a couple of, the repentant or surrendered insurgents who are under training in Borno State right now said that on a daily basis today at the camps, somehow they earn something in the region of 600 to 800 naira a day. But while they were in those, while they were insurgents, they were earning something in the region of 26,000 naira every day. So do you see a way that government can balance the interests of the people who are surrendering so that they do not go back again to what they would consider profitable? Remember, the governor of Kaduna State said the same thing, that these guys have already tasted a huge amount of money. Getting them to come, into civil society and be earning good money is going to be a problem. Do you see a middle ground?
There is no middle ground in this business, Martin. You're either going to swallow the bullet or bite it or whatever, but there is no middle ground. And I'll tell you what I mean. You see, for that boy who has decided to become a repentant terrorist, whatever that means, we must make a clear statement, a very clear statement, that you are either out or you are in. And once you are in, you are in. You are dead. Let's not mince words. The fight for terrorism is not for people who do not have the liver to bell cats. We've gone beyond belling cats today. We have to kill cats. Okay? We have to kill cats. We have seen recurrently around the world where terrorists are taken out without all the paperwork and verbiages and English language we see people speaking. Some people are even taken out falsely just because there were accidental assumptions that their countries had weapons of mass destruction. That's to show you the level at which this thing cannot be condoned. So talking about the boy making 26,000 or whatever amount he's making out there, you have to make being in this business so costly that whoever wants to do it will understand that even if you make $1 million a day, you have to be alive to spend it. Not to start giving them a retirement plan and, I recall a colleague of mine once sent me something from outside, out of the country, where a military general said the terrorists has vowed to make heaven, and their business out there is to ensure they see to it. This business is not for the lily liver. These are people who thrive on our fear of death, to visit woes and deaths on us. For me, I would want to say, as a senior military, as a senior police officer put it, if you can amass 34,000 people for an election, oh my, oh my.
Well, thank you.
Will give you.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement.
The army will give you 68,000. You can build up troops in 100 days and then run a campaign for 30 days and finish this thing, except, of course, as I said, if there is a profit somewhere for someone sustaining and prolonging these things.
Well, I hope some people who need to listen are listening to you right now, so the needful can be done. Let me ask Mr. Ubaudu, you've spoken along the line of collaboration earlier about this, among security, agents. Just over the weekend, the DSS State Director of Security in Ogun State, raised an alarm that available intelligence indicates plans by insurgents and criminal elements to carry out simultaneous attacks on military posts and bases in various border communities. That is coming against the backdrop of another report that came from the SSG in Niger State that there are plans of terrorists setting camp in Niger. Of course, it's the government of the state that is raising the alarm. So in terms of getting credible intelligence, we have them. Collaborating to action those intelligence information that we have, that's another thing altogether, wouldn't you say?
Well, thank you very much. I got the issue just raised. I believe very strongly in security agencies working together, synergizing. But like I said, there is no single security outfit that can single-handedly handle all these new security challenges we are facing as a nation. That's why they must work together. If there are any differences, bitterness and all of that, acrimonies, all of those should be buried, settled, and work and put the interests of this nation first. And there's nothing wrong in sharing intelligence. Because at the end of the day, the problem we're having is that some of them think that, oh, if you do this, do that, you get accolades from the public. If you don't do that, you are condemned by the public. But that doesn't take us anywhere. So we need to work together. And let me reemphasize again that security is everybody's responsibility, especially the issue of having to generate intelligence. A lot of things happen around us. We see these things, but we're not willing to disclose what we've seen to the security operatives so that they can be nipped in the bud before they explode and consume us. So we need to bring. I've always said too, well, when I was in service, I used to work with the traditional rulers, religious leaders, and all of that. And we achieved a lot of results at that time. So we need to work together, share intelligence, tackle whatever is coming up like that. Because once you have, if you have the intelligent, relevant intelligence, you prevent those things from coming up.
Well, sir, we have to thank you so much for sharing your honest thoughts with us this morning. Mr. Felix Ubaudu is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, and he's been speaking to us here in our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, just before we close, Captain Umar, I wanted to ask him how he got to Kaduna, but he already revealed it, that he went by train and he was riding alongside generals. But just before we go, I want you to give your own advisory. I mean, yes, you got to Kaduna by train. If people have to travel in this season, and a lot of people will be looking to do so, what will you be telling them to do?
It's a very simple thing. Right now, the first aid security measure for every Nigerian, whether you are in the armed forces, whether you're a general, whether you're a politician, a legislator, whatever you think you are in this country today, The first aid security measure I want to share with you is low profile. You have to learn to move low profile. This notice me syndrome. You are carrying sirens. You want everybody to know who you are. Listen, these bandits will go where they please and pick whom they want. And they've left no one in doubt about it. They've left no one in doubt about it. Until such a time when we see a better day in this country, I'll leave you with that one thing, low profile. Think about it. There are people in this country who are not even Nigerians and they get about their businesses. How come they are not on the bandits' radar? Good morning.
Well, it's food for thought. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. Captain Umar Aliyu is a former officer in the Nigerian Army. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And he's also the CEO of Goldwater and Riversand. That's why we have to leave it for this segment. We'll be, talking about some other issue which is closely related to security. Because some people have been able to draw the line between, or draw the connection between this particular matter which we're about to take on next. And you have to stay tuned to find out what the matter is and our current security situation. In just a moment, please stay with us.
Well, we're here. Don't forget that the agency taking charge of that particular issue that you're talking about is also one of our security agencies. But we'll take that on after now. The increasing use of crystal meth, or what in Nigeria's southeast is called Mkpurumiri, is giving cause for concern with many, many youths getting addicted. Where is it from? What do we even know about it? Is all we know about it all there is to it? How is it to be taken on so that we can cut down on the casualties, both mental and physical, that it's already taken on? We have two gentlemen joining us virtually this morning. Dr. Ahoma Mbanazuru is a consultant public health physician, and he is with Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital, Nnewi in Anambra State. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Nigerians. Thank you, the anchor.
Yes, sir. And we also have Honorable Arthur Igwim, who is a member representing the Idiato North State constituency, Imo State House of Assembly. Honorable, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All right. Let's begin with Dr. Mbanazuru. What do we know about this particular cause, this particular illicit drug that's making the rounds? What does medical science, especially in Nigeria, know about it?
Thank you. The Mkpurumiri, that's the Igbo coinage or the name, but it's actually a chemical known as methamphetamine. And methamphetamine is not a new drug in the system. It's a drug that's been there in the system. In fact, from history, we have it that it was discovered or developed in 1919 in Japan, used during the World War II, especially by the soldiers and linked with some suicide mission. And after a while, we saw that there are some medical impact or the medical effect the methamphetamine could have in treating some ailment like depression, but the lethal effect or the dangerous aspect of it outweighs the benefit. Hence, it was among the drugs that the regulatory body said, no, this one is not among the one that everybody could have access to. We have what is called Schedule 2 list of drugs. That's what actually this drug is, and it appears in the form. It's crystal. The crystal form appears like ice block, and the ice block in Igbo land is called Mkpurumiri. That's why the users now call it Mporomiri that is now taking the name and everybody is talking, but it's actually the crystal form that appears like ice block. Sometimes it may appear in blue color. Thank you.
The people who have been using it, doctor, do you think they have any idea of its lethal effects?
That's where the danger is. And then it's a drug that has a high propensity to lead into addiction because of the effects that it gives. One of the effects is that it gives this pleasurable feeling. It makes you to feel what some people will tag as being high. So the users actually go for that effect. The lethal or the consequences were not among the things that they focus on, and which is the main thing that is dealing with our young ones.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look deeper into this, but let me take the opening comments of Honorable Arthur Igwem on this particular issue. The state government is definitely as concerned as well, but the question is, how concerned? It would seem that one really hasn't heard much from government on this issue.
Well, I think that's a wrong notion, because our governor, after I moved the motion, I have interface with an agent, and I say to the governor of health, I've met with her, and we've been discussing on this, and His Excellency, distinguished Oposodema, has set up a platform and framework to tackle this to the next, because it's a very simple that across our youth and training of the state, our youth are involved in this type of mess. And as a legislator, on the 15th of November, at the floor of the House, through the permission of the Speaker, and I was able to move motion because based on the information I made, that our youths, majority of them are Guzoro. What is Guzoro? Like the lecturer has just said, it's something that I believe because of the high cost of cocaine or high cost of heroin, our youth are now involved with it. So what we ask, why is the trend now? My investigation, my research has shown that some of the campaigns from South Africa are the ones that imported into South, and it's just everywhere. So to say that the government is doing marvelously well, because a resolution of the House of Assembly, which is HMB 191, was sent to the executive, and they have set up a kind of agency to, like I said, monitor the activities of this chunk that are involved in this. And as a representative of the people, either or not, I've been able to interface with the town union president. I've been able to interface with the youth across the data or not, to find a way to stop this menace. Because if this menace is stopped right now, a lot of things will go wrong. So to me, the government is doing fantastically well on this issue, as far as I know.
One would wonder how far then, but then there is a reason why people, especially young people, are going after this cheap drug, just as you have said, because the other one, the other more little ones are a lot cheaper. Why that is going on is what we want to find out when we return from this break for a few messages. To stay with us. Let me ask you, Dr. Mbanuzuru, why do people, especially young people, on this particular methamphetamine that you've talked about, why is it that it's the young people that are going about chasing after this one? And why, in your opinion, do you think they do that? What's the reason you would give? There are those who say that it's because they want to subdue the frustration and the hopelessness that they face in the country. Is that what you have been able to find out?
Thank you for the question. There are many factors that lead to drug abuse, generally substance use, not particular to Urumiri. Like you pointed out, some may be due to frustration. They want to overcome frustration. Some may be, one of the key things I think is even unemployment. When people, there's an adage we have that an idle mind is devil's workshop. When people are not doing anything, they become tools to experiment this. And then also, when it is so readily available, is one of the things that can lead to others. We know the issue of peer pressure as well. I would think that unemployment, peer pressure, where people, they used to say, look at, I've gotten another better substance that can give us what we're looking for, which is that euphoric effect, being high, so to say. When it's readily available, it's one of the things that can lead the young ones to go into it. And then when we have this family system that is now not taking care of our young ones, many of our parents, so to say, we don't have so much time to train our young ones. Our value system is busy getting eroded. We don't reward hard work. We don't reward where people have a better value. So people seem to see that it's criminality that is being rewarded. I think it's one of the things that is promoting it. Thank you.
Honorable, let me ask you, in that light, in the light of the response of the medical doctor who is a consultant public health physician in Anambra State, would you say that government has significantly taken charge of situations that have caused depression, frustration, and hopelessness, especially in these young people, that is leading them to take anything to just douse the tension, so to speak?
Well, to me, like the doctor just, the youth upon this incident, I went out to my constituency and I did do the kind of research. I investigated that for some of the youths, even across both Uruala, I said, why do people involved in this? Some of them, what they say is that they say that government has failed them. A situation whereby a young man to no work. So the tendency for them to do what others do. We find out that by the time they are doing what others do, by the time they get into that, deep into this consumption of this illicit drug, they would not know that they're fake. And the most important thing is there's lack of trust on from the youth to the government, for the government. Myself is missing. You try to tell them, don't do this, they will say, what have you done for us? So to me, as a legislator, we are, my colleagues at the Night House have even fashioned a committee that the Speaker has set up. Now we should go to our constituents and try to take this issues out of this stuff. And the issue there right now is the lack of trust from the youth to the government, and we take it to even family values, like the doctor said. And above all, as a legislator, like I've said, we owe a duty of care, and that duty of care is what we are trying to bring to this some of our constituents, to tell them the youth that what you are involved in cannot do anything. And we find out that most of the vices, we try to let them know most of the vices that is ongoing in Southeast now can be rooted towards that. So as far as I know, as a legislator, we are doing our part. But sometimes because we are not executive, we don't have them to sign out money. The reason we have is what we need to kind of society to that tell them that what you are involved in is not good. You are destroying your future. As like in my own constituency, I'm able to have kind of every time I go, I bring them together, try to tell them that look, even if you think that the government is not doing anything, they should be able to be better for, like where I come from is that our youth in those days go to learn trade. People don't believe that government will do anything. You make trade from a FCC and your master safety do. But these days, some of these things are not even willing to learn any trade. They are willing to say, what are you putting on the table? If you give them money now, tomorrow they will the money will go, they use the money to go and buy drugs. So to me, it is better, it's not, government alone cannot solve this problem. It has to go back to them. It will have to be a bottom-up approach. What I mean by bottom-up approach, the parents,
it's honorable. Yes, just a second. At the end of the day, it's all back to government because people have to leverage on something in order to do some of the things that you've talked about. Well, you could go to some of your constituents, but in the case of the governor, his own constituency is the entire state, one constituency. So back to the question that I asked earlier, and you have also mentioned it, no matter what it is that government is doing, if the people do not have trust, if the people do not have confidence in the fact that government is representing them, the sense of frustration, depression, and hopelessness will persist, and they will still go into such issues as this. So back to the question of whether or not government is doing enough to allay the fears and frustrations of people. What else, in the light of what you have said, what else do you think is missing now that governments in that particular state will begin to do. You talked about the communities. The media is awash with interventions of communities, community leaders, pockets of communities, young people, also trying to talk to themselves. But at the end of the day, it is the infrastructure, the enabling environment that government provides that people can leverage on. So what's the missing gap then?
Well, the missing gap, like I've said, is I think the government or the executive need to buckle up by setting up seminars and going into some of these villages, because some of these things are done in the villages. Because others, like I've said, whether you like it or not, the problem is when the government comes, they will only talk and give the situation. It still has to be within the families, it has to be with the president, it has to be with the youth leaders. So government should be able to set up a kind of an institution that would kind of take care of these things. Before, there was a task force that was created for this purpose. So the government, in my motion, that was I said the government should be able to reorganize this that kind of the task force. So that task force is able to go to their villages and then get the people to know that what they are doing is wrong. And the only way they, because I don't support this issue of training of people. Sometimes you train them to forget that you see that somebody will say that God dead. The thing is that government should set up workshops. Government should tell their agency, the agents of governor, who is the commissioners, the essays, they should go to their constituents. They shouldn't leave the house of, like I said, the speaker, set up an annual committee for people to go to their respective constituencies and talk to the youth. But the governor and the executive usually do the same by organizing workshops and seminars so that people will know that this is fitting deep into the fabric of our youth. And the earlier we stop it, the better, because the question mark where that there, like I said, there's no trust. As a honorable member, sometimes we stop people, like there was a time I come and I try to tell people there that what we are doing on youth, what we are doing in the celebration with the youth of that time, that what we are doing is some of them say, the honorable member, you did there for over 7 years. What have you done for us? The little I can do is what from my salary, because the government is system. We don't have that executive power to start getting that money. So what I'm saying here is that if you go there and the government, yes, the government will do something, but the whole thing is going to the community. Because like I said, the governor will come, but the agents of governor will come to my country, they talk and go. But the thing is we have to deal with the community. The president general, the third union president, and all that, because this is keeping this. Like on my own service, on my own arrangement, I have been able to kind of get some big type of them in that through the collaboration with the third union president and some that to get people to chill out of the job these days, because it is keeping this with our it does not happen to be one of the model of the state. Some of our youth are involved in teaching, and it is among that our governor is doing fantastically well in this aspect, but that's due for them to the agents of governor or the agencies to do more. So that's why I'm saying the fact remains that it has to be a collaboration between the governor, the state, and even the agents of governor that is in that or not. Likewise, other constituencies in the university. So that for us to let it, I think we have to know.
Thank you, Honorable. Let me quickly go back to Dr. Mbanuzuru now. I want to ask you how we know that this problem is becoming pervasive. Are we beginning to see more people present at the hospital with symptoms or with, side effects of the use of this particular illicit drug?
Thank you. I think one of the reasons why we are having this now is because of I want to say, good role that the media is playing. As we say that this drug has been there since 1919, World War II, and then it's possible that because now we have greater access to social media, anything that happens, we are here within Anambra State. Somebody ate all the whole world will be knowing what is happening. That's the beauty of it. It's possible because of the hype from the social media, I want to say. And now, because of the actions some communities have started taking, I think that's why everybody is now raising their hand. Everybody is saying we want to stamp this, which is a good development.
You've not seen any cases presented at hospitals, or that hospitals are beginning to raise the alarm that some of the patients that are presenting with the side effect of the use of this particular illicit drug?
No, as it stands, we cannot vividly say that, because as we say, the substance use is not only limited to mporommiri or methamphetamine. There are many other ones. We have tramadol, we have codeine, even cocaine, maybe because it's costly. Some people are taking all manner of things. So the effect you have is general effect, but because of what the social media and the impacts recently, why people are calling that, oh, this because of mporommiri, while these actions we are taking by some young people, that's one of the things that made people to start talking about it so much. I want to believe so.
Okay, so let me widen the net then, because even though, yes, our conversation is about mporommiri, I mean, you've talked about other substances that are in use in general that have been abused. Do you see more and more people presenting with the symptoms of the illicit use of these substances?
Now, you will agree with me that one of the challenges we have, which I'm going to say in terms of solutions we have, is that the level of investment we have in terms of mental health facilities, in terms of raising rehabilitation centers, we've not done much. I don't want to say we've not done anything at all. Because of that, many people involved may not necessarily attend to the hospital. You know, people have this idea that once you attend to the hospital, anything that has to do with mental health, they will tag that this person is mad. So naturally, even if people have psychosis, many of them don't come to the hospital. They may want to go to the handle it at the herbal homes or taking care of in religious centers. So as at now, we cannot say that the number we are seeing is beyond the number we've been seeing before now.
Wow, it's a real, I don't know how to put it now, but it's a very worrisome situation. Because if scientifically, and we do not even have a way of putting numbers to it, but it's been identified as a societal ill and as a problem, because mporommiri, it will seem, even from the name, it will seem that it is the illicit drug that is preferred in the Southeast. I mean, there are all manner of illicit drugs all over the country, and it would seem that different regions have different preferences. But this is a rising one in the southeast of the country. And speaking with Honorable, he did say that it was seen that this is as a result of those who have come back from overseas where this drug was, in high use. But let me go to Honorable now, who is in Owerri. What I find remarkable is that you, as a medical practitioner in Anambra, you're able to, identify that this is a problem where you are. And Honorable is in Owerri, in Imo State, another part of the Southeast, and is also able to identify that this is a problem as well. The question is, when you look at this problem in generality, and with regards to what needs to be done medically, you have laid emphasis on the fact that the government seems to be, raising more awareness and trying to prevent more people from taking up the drug. What help is available for those who have finally gotten addicted, looking at the challenge that Dr. already presented, that most people do not go to mental health institutions, or that even these mental health institutions or rehabilitation centers are not available, looking at how pervasive, at least if we were to go by social media reports, this drug use is becoming?
Well, I think like I've said, in one of research that we did, the government of Imo State, from what I heard, are trying to set up rehabilitation centers across the state so that some of these youth can be taken off from this menace. And above all, you find out that because of the security agents, they are like the police. That's one of the another anchor of it, why people tend to take the president general and the youth leaders tend to take the laws into their hand by flogging these people. There was allegation that once the drug sellers or the people that peddle this drug, because after the youths they don't have access to this drug. This drug is being sold by some people. When these people are arrested, you take them to police station, you find out that 2 days they are out. So to me, to get this thing solved out, the government need to, like I've said, they need to they have centers, and it has to be all encompassing, and people all must be on deck to solve this problem. I'm of that view and of that point that there have to be a kind of regulatory framework to make it to let the government a regulatory framework to be set up to fight this very menace. Because if you say you are living in for government alone cannot solve it. Because I see people saying that yes, the government will be able to do it, but as a representative of the people who go to my council and represent a rural area, I find that people always say to you that what have you put on the table to let us for us not to take drugs? And you find out that if going by that, the only thing that would make the people to take is people to go back to the origin, whereby the communities sometimes will have to go to the parents. If you have a child that is taking Imprumir or Gusoro, they have to kind of ostracize them, because you try to go to that, because these things are reverberating from Anambra down to that or not, down to other states. So what we are saying here is that the government should be able to build rehabilitation centers across the state, because this is almost, and it's an emergency situation. A rehabilitation center should be, because this is yes, we are nowhere here where we say that people don't take improvement, because we will not know somebody taking improvement. But if you go to the villages, the damage is much that the government is immediately set up rehab centers to get these people out of the streets. And I believe as a legislator, we can't do it alone. Like I'm saying, the financial involvement is much. The government should be able to establish rehab centers across the state to take this the youth out of this drug. That's what I think that we're able to solve the problem. Because
which government are you talking about? Are you talking about the state government, or you're talking about federal government?
No, the state. I'm talking of Imo State. I'm from Imo State. I represent that or not. So the state government. I'm talking about state government, even local governments. The other day I was speaking with our teams in charge. I said, look, it is better we collaborate, both the legislature and the executive collaborate to stop this menace. So what I'm saying here is the state government should be able to up and do it in establishing rehab centers to take the children out of the streets.
Now, for parents who will be worried, and this is for Doctor now, for parents who will be worried that their children could be, getting addicted, or they suspect that they're taking hard drugs and do not know what to look out for, what would you say will be the signs that, parents should be on the watch out for? When they begin to see the signs, they should have a hard talk with their children. Award.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I go to that, I want to make a statement. Let's understand there are two things before us now. One of them is people that are already taking the drugs, those that are addicted to it, and others that are not yet, that may likely start. So the approach to two of them are different. Secondly, I want to say here that anybody that is addicted to, whether it's Imprumir or any other drug, that person needs help. The person does not know what he's doing. I want to make this statement before going to issue of signs. There are some signs, obviously, people or parents may see because of the effect this drug has on the user. One of them is that it makes the person to be awake. In fact, the report has it that some may be awake for many days or weeks without sleeping. Now, it affects the heartbeat, it affects the blood pressure, apart from the high feeling or euphoric feeling it gives. Because of that, some of the signs you may be seen from this person, some of them may start appearing tattered. They may be wearing all tattered things, appearing older than they are. A young person may start looking as an older person. Some of them may be not do it because they're not in their right senses. If you are addicted to it, may start picking on the hairs, on the skin. The person may be, apart from, then prone to violence, all antisocial behaviors. There are usually some of the signs you see this person can be doing violence of all kinds, stealing, and then some of them will start going, because part of addiction and what it follows, into what is called insolvency. Some of them, you start by finishing all your earnings, possession, start selling what they have. Some will go to the point of selling anything that they can lay hand upon. When they don't know how to sell, they go into robbery. These are some of the things that when people start seeing this, they know that something may be going wrong. Thank you.
Now, some people will say that this might be a problem that, you know, the Southeast might be experiencing currently, but it's only a matter of time if it's not handled as it ought to be handled. It's only a matter of time before it spreads to other parts of the country. And as you know, other parts of the country are also dealing with their own drug problem. All you have to do is speak with the NDLEA chairman, and you'll get to know just, you know, how pervasive the problem of illicit drugs have become in different parts of the country. To your own, and you've done a very beautiful analysis in terms of setting out the issues here, those who are yet to start and those who are currently addicted and who need help. I do not know. While we wait for, because Honorable talked about how he's expecting government to help build rehabilitation centers. While we're waiting for that to happen, and while we also hope that, you know, the few that are available as rehabilitation centers or psychiatric centers that exist, you know, get the required help that they can get, what do you think that communities and individuals can do when they see that people need help? Because we also know that some of these are, what they call them now, the hospitals for mentally ill, can be sometimes overwhelmed. So is there anything they can do as communities?
Yeah, thank you very much. There's a lot to be done. As I said, when someone is addicted already, somebody is an addict, the help that the person needs is not from the community. Let me say here, from the social media and from what made the drugs pronounced now, some of the floggings we've seen in the social media, some being ostracized, that may not be the solution. The person that is an addict, as I said before, needs help. Even if you are flogging this person from now till tomorrow, you are only injuring this person physically. Now, the help that this person needs need to come from a rehabilitation center, need to come from well-equipped center. It goes back to the government. Thank God for what the honorable member have just said. The person that needs to do that is government, to invest in health center, health setting, health generally. We need to have not just type of rehabilitation center he talked about, that's also good, but there is need to have comprehensive rehabilitation center, if possible, in our teaching hospitals. As it stands now in Southeast, I'm not sure of any. So it's not just a local government or state government saying want to put rehabilitation centers in all the local government. That's okay, but let's do comprehensive investment in, if like Imo State now, you can put, we have a teaching hospital in Imo State, have a comprehensive rehabilitation center. The federal government do that will help those that are already addicts. Coming to what do we do to those that are not yet, and we want to prevent it. Number one, it goes to government again. Let me say, we need to improve the socioeconomic status of our young people. The Honorable said it rightly that some of the youths are asking them, what have you done for us? It's not enough to give stipends to our young people during election, and then they may be just tools to be used during election, and give them 1 naira or 2 naira. That's not empowerment. Let government be genuinely committed in erasing unemployment. Government at the federal level, government at the state level, and local government level. That will help us. Number two, we need to, the NDLE is doing pretty well, but there is need to do more. Like you're asking, as it stands now, we cannot vividly say, look at the prevalence of intake of amorumiri or any other drugs. The drug use survey we had last about that of 2019 gave a prevalence of illicit drug use generally, about 40% among our young people. Now, when people are even saying that Oromere is more in Southeast, I want to say one of the things that government may do is to fund research so that vividly we can say this is the prevalence, not what social media is giving us. So government has a lot to do. NDLE also doing well, but need to do more. In terms of supply chain, if there is no supplier, no matter how the demand comes, there will be nothing to supply. So the NDLE and other agencies have a role to play in terms of cutting the supply. Where is this drug coming from? Someone said, like the honorable gentleman said, some people bringing it from outside the country. There are unconfirmed reports about some of them being produced locally. In whichever sense, the NDLE and other agencies have greater role to play in cutting the supply chain. Who is involved? Is it possible that there are high persons? Yeah.
We're totally out of time. I really wish that we could let you go on, and we have to thank you for your comments this morning and your insight into the problems associated with Nkurumiri. We've been speaking with Dr. Ahoma Mbanozuru, who is a consultant public health physician at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University Teaching Hospital, Nnewi, in Anambra State. Thank you for joining us via Zoom this morning. And would also had with us Honorable Arthur Igwim, who is a member representing Idiato North State constituency of the Imo State House of Assembly. He joined us via Zoom from Owerri as well. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this problem as well, Honorable.
Thank you very much.
Well, we have to go now, but not without taking your mails. Let's take a look at some of the mails that we have received. This one is from Henry Ewunono, who's talking about substance abuse and the youth. He says the use of mind and mood-altering and damaging agents is universal, not just in the Southeast, and it's seen more where youths have become idle and therefore willing tools in the hands of the devil. However, the solutions go beyond public discourse. Sports and games, modernized agriculture, a well-structured youth intellectual and skills development program, devoid of the shenanigans of Empower and similar schemes, are the low-hanging fruits.
Well, we have a second Henry this morning talking about Nkurumiri. Says the hard drug, Nkurumiri, doesn't fall from heaven. It is produced in our neighborhoods. I live in the Southeast. The major challenge is the indifference of or complacency of our community leaders in the Southeast. Some efforts are ongoing, but a lot needs to be done by community leaders and the church. If producers and dealers of meth, Nkurumiri, are exposed and stopped, the consumers will be free.
Festus Akimboyewa, talking about strengthening national security now, says we must not be tired of reminding those in government that providing security for our nation and every citizen remains the most important responsibility of government. Good that government is improving the capabilities of our security agencies to deal with the insecurity that's daily hurting our country's integrity and interest. Government must also focus on the underlying drivers of insecurity, such as poverty, poor governance, human rights violations, and lack of respect for the rule of law.
Isioma on declaring bandits as terrorists. When you have a group of armed individuals daily killing, maiming, kidnapping, and preventing citizens from taking their lives for fear of being killed, those are terrorists. They have terrorized the whole nation and paralyzed all with fear, displacing millions, rendering them refugees in their country. Those are unequivocally terrorists. Very well done. Now let's hope they can be eradicated so that Nigerians can have peace.
Well, that's all we'll have to leave it. We see your mail, Louis Afolabi. We're sorry we can't take it now. We're totally out of time. Thank you so much for watching this morning and your contributions. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day and a lovely week.